Hi everyone, and I am Michael Buckoff, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass a TOEFL IBT. And I want to welcome everybody here to my YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to my channel, definitely you can subscribe if you want. I have great videos, I have a lot of good information to help you improve your TOEFL score. And first of all, I'm going to welcome a few different groups of people here. First of all, I want to welcome those of you who are from my TOEFL Speaking 26 subscribers. Some of you have gone to my website at onlinetoeflcourse.com and you have signed up to get tips to improve speaking. And welcome to all of you. Now, other students who are watching this video, you guys are already students in my online TOEFL course, and I want to welcome all of you. And finally, I want to welcome the subscribers here at YouTube. Many of you are also watching today, and I hope everybody gets some really good ideas on how to improve their topic development, right? That's really the main thing I want to focus on in this particular video. Now, first of all, why do you want to improve your topic development, right? So let's go, I'm going to go on the internet here and let's find the IBT rubrics for, let's say, TOEFL speaking for a minute. Give me a quick second here. So I'm going to go to screen capture. So I'm going to go to Google. I'm going to type in some keywords here. So TOEFL speaking rubrics, right? So let's take a look at this. So if you take a look at it right here, we can see it. And here's where I want to focus right now. So I want to just make sure everybody understands why we're talking about this. So when you're completing independent speaking tasks and integrated speaking tasks for that matter, you have an area called topic development. Right? Which means this is, it says here, response is sustained and sufficient to the task. It means that whatever you're doing, you're answering the question directly. It also says it is generally well developed and coherent. Relationship between ideas are clear, or a clear progression of ideas. So if you can be more organized, right, and you include specific supporting details that relate to your general ideas, you will have good topic development, right? So this is why we're talking about this. So I want to help you in this area here. Now, one other thing. Let's take a look at one more rubric here. Let's look at the TOEFL writing rubrics for just a second. And let's see what it also says about this area. So we have scoring guide rubrics for writing responses. Let's just take a look at one here. We have here to get a score of 5, and maybe let me make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see this. So under 5 it says the response is well organized and occasional language errors that are present do not result in inaccurate and imprecise presentation. Right? So again, we're talking about organization, right? Now let's just take a look at the independent speaking task again. Or the independent writing task. It says an essay is well organized and well developed, using clearly appropriate explanations, exemplifications, and or details. So why am I telling you this? So if you're organized, right? If your speaking tasks are organized, and it's easy for someone to understand how all the ideas are connected. And if we can say the same thing about your writing, guess what? You're doing very well and you're likely to get a very high score. You see what I'm saying? So this is the reason I'm talking about topic development during this particular live stream video. Now, if anybody has questions, feel free. You can certainly answer your questions. We got good evening, hi to you, Adam Stone. You say, where are other people watching this video? Actually, I posted it at a few different areas of the internet. All right, in fact, let me post it at Facebook right now so I can invite some of those people. So I just posted this at Facebook, and let's go one more here. Then I'll go to Google and we'll post it here. All right, so let's move on. So in order for me to talk about this, I'm going to give you guys some general ideas here for a minute. Give me a quick second. Okay, so coherence in speaking and writing. And when I use coherence, I mean having good topic development. That's kind of what I'm talking about right now. And the question is, how do we do this? Right? So let's talk about two things. The first thing that's important is called paragraph unity. Paragraph unity means everything within a particular paragraph, whether you're speaking or whether you're writing, it's all connected together to a single idea. So how do you do that? There's really two things that you have to understand here. Number one, you have to understand the concept of a topic sentence. Then number two, you have to have relevant supporting details. So if you have good paragraph unity, you will have good topic development. That means you have a good topic sentence, you have relevant supporting details. Now what does this look like? Let's go over to, I have a paragraph I want us to take a look at right now, and I think this helps demonstrate what's called paragraph unity. So hopefully you guys can see this, make it even a little bit bigger. Okay, take a minute and read this particular paragraph. Okay, you guys reading this? Okay, now I have a question here. I don't want to be doing all the talking here. You guys can interact too. So my first question is, can somebody just write down what you think the topic of this particular paragraph is? What is the actual topic? Okay? Anyone? All right, Adam, I will talk to you a little bit more about your specific situation, but let's answer this question here. Remember that I don't want to do all the talking here. Can somebody tell me, let's go back to this paragraph here. Make sure you guys can see it. Here, hold on a minute. Right here. You guys see this? Okay, so if you look in the very beginning and you see the question here, it says, what is the most important characteristic of a co-worker? Use reasons and details to support your opinion. The writer has said this: being flexible is important because it helps the worker to become a more valuable asset to his supervisor. So the purpose of the paragraph is to explain why flexibility is an important characteristic of a co-worker. Now, the next question is, we want to make sure that we have, as I said over here, we want to have a relevant supporting detail. So let's take a look at what the writer says here. This is what I want to focus on right now. The writer says, for example, if the supervisor asks the worker to learn a new Excel spreadsheet used to document potential new customers, and if the worker adapts to and masters the new computer software, he will become a more valuable to his supervisor since he is willing and able to master new job challenges. As a result, the boss may reward the flexible employee by giving him a raise or by promising him continued job security. You see that? So in this particular paragraph, the writer has a topic. The topic is flexibility, and the writer has a detail by talking about the Excel spreadsheet. This paragraph has what we call unity. So whether it's in writing or whether it's in speaking, you want to do the same thing. You have a topic and then you have relevant supporting details, and that helps make it very easy for your audience to understand how your ideas are organized. All right? Now let's move ahead. Now, I have another comment here. Let me open up new screen capture here. Okay, so in addition to having good paragraph unity, you also want to have what's called cohesion. This is also important in both speaking and writing. And these tips that I'm giving you today, if you can follow these tips during the speaking and the writing sections of the exam, you will score very high. I promise you that. You will get a very high score. Why? Because you're really, really organized. And being organized is good. Remember that many TOEFL students, when they do speaking and writing tasks, obviously, they will have some language use issues. They'll have some problems with vocabulary. They'll have some problems with grammar. They might have a few delivery problems. But you want to make sure you're not having any problems with topic development. This is something that we can control, right, as we complete the test. We all can learn to be organized. We may not be able to prevent all the language use or the delivery issues, but certainly we can learn how to keep things really organized, and that can help make up for some other weaknesses that you might have with your TOEFL speaking or your TOEFL writing. Right? Now, cohesion. Cohesion can be achieved through 4 ways. There's 4 things that you can do that will make your speaking and writing more cohesive. Right? So I want to talk about these things. Okay, we have using transition words. This is really one of the first things that you can do in order to be organized, is to use transition words so that we can understand how your ideas are connected. Now another one. Using determiners and pronouns to link old and new information together. This is also a very effective way to organize your speaking and your writing. Now another one. Repeating and rephrasing key terms or words from topic, sentences, or thesis statements. And then the last one is using parallel structures. Right? So what I'm saying is, To help you guys understand this during this live feed is coherence in speaking and writing can be achieved. Number one, you want to have good paragraph unity by having clearly marked topic sentences and then relevant supporting details. A lot of people remember that I have graded thousands and thousands of speaking practice tests. I've graded thousands upon thousands of writing practice tests, right? I'm a TOEFL teacher for over 22 years. I am an English professor here at California State University, San Bernardino. I have a lot of experience with this, and I have seen this problem. A lot of students, whether they're native or non-native speakers, they're simply not very organized. They're not making things as connected as they could be. Now remember, the tips I'm giving you today, these are not just tips for getting high speaking and writing scores. These are good tips for writing and speaking generally. So if you have to give a presentation in front of a group, remember what I'm talking about today. If you need to do a report for your company or your job, remember what I'm saying today, because all of this applies to writing and speaking situations. Maybe they might be personal, they might be professional, there might be academic speaking or writing, but it will apply to all of those situations because you'll make it much easier for someone to understand what you're saying if you're organized. Now, in the next part of the video, I want to talk about these different cohesive devices one by one. I want to talk about how we can use these in our speaking and writing to get higher scores. That's the next thing I want to talk about today. Looks like we have a question from Adam. It says, when we're delivering, how many examples are necessary? During the independent speaking task, I recommend that you bring up two support points, right, or two reasons, and then give an example for each of those reasons. And that will probably take you about 45 seconds to do that. So that would be my answer to that particular question. All right? Now let's move on. We need to go back and let's talk about transition words now. You guys see what I'm saying? Now what I want to do is I want to talk about how we can use these different kinds of things in our speaking and in our writing. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about transition words. Now what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have a good list. And my students in my online TOEFL course, they have access to this. So some of you are watching this video. If you are one of my online TOEFL course students, you want to go to TOEFL Speaking Lesson number 7. And you want to make sure that you have a good list of transition words and you know how to use them in both speaking and writing situations. And this is why you practice. This is why you want to complete speaking and writing practice tests, because you can take these ideas, you can put them into your speaking and writing practice, then you can send them to me and I will listen to and score those things and provide you feedback. But here we go. So we have transition words of addition. You can see some of the examples here. We have examples here, compare and contrast. Right? Also, we have transition words of time, place, summary, conclusion, and logical relationships. So you want to know when and how to use these kinds of transition words in both your speaking and writing. Let's go to another column here. And let me give you an example here. So what does it look like in speaking, right? So let's take a look at an example. So it says, here's a writing prompt. It says, what are the most important qualities in a neighbor? So let's take a look at this example here. So then we have, the first important quality in a neighbor is considerateness. For example, if my neighbor has a party, he will be sure that the music is not too loud without me having to tell him. Also, If I'm on vacation, my neighbor will move my garbage from the street to the side of the house after it has been emptied, so that potential thieves will not know that I'm on vacation. Therefore, from these two reasons, we can see that being considerate can create a more peaceful and safer community. Okay, you guys see that? Now, let's identify some of the transition words that are used in this paragraph. So obviously, the topic, if you want to look at paragraph unity here, this is unified because the writer has a topic sentence here. The topic sentence is, the first important quality in a neighbor is considerateness. Now, the second thing the writer does is the writer gives two specific examples to help support this point. And that's why the writer uses the word here, for example. So by using for example, the writer is able to introduce a more specific idea that connects back to the more general statement. And that's why the writer says, if a neighbor has a party, he will be sure the music is not too loud without me having to tell him. Now, next, the writer uses also. And the writer uses also to add to the previous example. Remember, the purpose of the two examples is to demonstrate considerateness and why considerateness is an important quality in a neighbor. So the writer says, if I'm on vacation, my neighbor will move my garbage from the street to the side of the house after it has been emptied, so that potential thieves will not know that I'm on vacation. Therefore, notice how the writer uses cause-effect here by saying therefore, and this is also what's called logical conclusion, from these two reasons. Even here, to make it more organized, the writer says from these two reasons. Which reasons? Well, we have one reason here. We can see this. That's the first reason. The second reason is right here. And then the writer repeats that. So from these two reasons, we can see that being considerate can create, and notice how the writer says, a more peaceful and safer community. So peaceful, it relates to the idea of not having the music too loud. And safer, that connects to the idea of moving the garbage back to the house so other people won't know that the people are not home. You see, so this paragraph is very unified. Now, what I'm telling you is, whether you're doing speaking or writing tasks for the TOEFL exam, stay organized. This is what you want to do. Now, is it easy to do this? No, of course not. Our brains don't think this way. We think about a whole bunch of things at the same time, right? But when we really want to be careful about how we say what we say, or how we write what we write, we have to think about it in a more academic nature, and yes, we should be more organized in those cases. Remember that the TOEFL speaking, it's not just a conversation between two, how are you, what's your name, where are you from. They're not just doing that. They're asking you specific, independent, and integrated speaking tasks. They're seeing how well you can deliver these tasks with good language use and good topic development. That's kind of what they're saying. All right, so let me go back to video for just a quick second here. So what I'm saying is the more organized you can be, the better it is going to be for you. That's exactly what I'm saying here, right? Now we want to move on to our next idea here. Okay, the next point I want to talk about here is called using determiners and pronouns as a way of organizing ideas. This is something that I think we probably worry about this more at the sentence to the sentence level of our speaking and writing, and we need to identify exactly what these things are and how they work. Because remember, what I'm doing here, I'm giving you 4 specific tools on how you can improve the topic development and the organization of your speaking and writing tasks for the TOEFL IBT exam. This is what we're talking about right here. All right? Now give me a quick second. Okay, let's go on to the next part here. Okay, I'm going to go to another screen capture here. Okay, here we go. So, in addition to using determiners, in addition to using pronouns, you can also use determiners and pronouns as a way to link old information to new, which makes it easier for your audience to understand what you're saying. So, what are determiners and what are pronouns? I'll give you a quick list right here. So as you guys can see, we have what's called subject pronouns here. We have object pronouns here. Now, here's a good tip for you. During the TOEFL integrated task, during the integrated writing and speaking task, you really don't need to use a lot of personal pronouns. You need to be focusing more on the information. You're not talking directly to the audience. Right? So you definitely don't need the you point of view during integrated speaking or integrated writing, and you don't need the I or the me or the my or whatever. So you're focusing more on the information, so you want to focus more on third person point of view. Here's possessive pronouns here, reflexive pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, they come in very handy, possessive determiners, you can see them here, and then you have demonstrative determiners here. So these are the different examples of either determiners and pronouns that you can use to organize your speaking and writing. So what does it look like when you're doing this? Okay, let's take a look here. So let's say that you're doing a speaking task or a writing task, and it says, how does the information in the listening passage support the information in the reading passage? That's your question. Now when you look through here, you can see the writer is using quite a few determiners and pronouns in here in order to connect the ideas together. It says, the information in the listening passage contradicts the information presented in the reading passage. Even though learners may learn through imitation, as the reading passage suggests, the lecture contends that not all learning occurs by imitation. In fact, it refers back to the lecture, it is argued that most learning occurs when speakers are actively engaged in the construction of their own rules as they apply them to the target language. You see my point? So by using the word the and using the word it and then there, they, them, the writer is able to connect all this information together. Now, I want to show you something else here for a minute. This is something that's it's a little bit difficult, but I want to make sure. Looks like we got a question here. Let me look at it. I'm going to answer this question in a minute. It says, I like your strategy and courses, helping in all areas. I'm easily eliminating the answer choice is good. You say, how to know if my essay is written in a more organized and well-developed manner. You probably want to say, well, how do you know? When you submit your writing practice test, you'll get a score back from either me or my teaching assistant. If your score is below, let's say 4.0, if your score is below 4.0 out of 5, which means you're scoring below 25 points out of 30, it means that you're having problems with your organization and your development. If your score is above that, you're doing well in those areas. So that is how you will know if you're having problems in those areas. All right? Okay, let's move ahead. Let's keep going. Actually, okay, so the next thing, I want to take a look at one other thing. So we've talked about really two things so far. We talked about using pronouns, We talked about using determiners and also and using transition words as a way of organizing ideas, right? So now I want to move over to the third one. Let's see what we have here. You open this up. Okay, so the next thing here is repeating and rephrasing keywords from topic sentences or thesis statements. I think this is also an important point. So let's take a look at how this can be done, right? Okay, here we go. So, let me go back to screen capture and make sure you guys can see this. Here we go. So let's take a look at an example writing prompt. Right? Can you guys see this okay? Right? Okay, so the writing prompt is, it says, what are the most important qualities of a good roommate? Use specific reasons and examples to support your point of view. Okay, now what I want to do is, I want to look at the thesis and the topic sentences of each of the body paragraphs, and we can see, and I want to make sure you guys can see this okay. Let me enlarge this. Okay, we're still good. Okay, so let me go back. Give me a quick second. Okay, we're back. Let me make sure this is good. One more time. Okay, so let's take a look at the question. So what are the most important qualities of a good roommate? Use specific reasons and examples to support your point of view. So it says, at one time or another, whether we decide to attend a university or move to a city for a new job, we may decide to live with someone else. However, before we choose to live with someone else, we should consider what type of person we'll be most compatible with. In considering qualities in a roommate, I think honesty, respect, and cleanliness are the most important ones, especially if I want to get along with him or her. Now the next thing is, what I want you to notice here is how the writer is using repetition. For example, the writer says in the thesis, qualities. This goes back to this word, qualities. The writer said the word roommate. Roommate is exactly the same word in the writing prompt. Then the writer uses the words honesty, we have respect, and then we have cleanliness, which is, again, it's examples of different qualities. And then the writer says the most important here, the most important ones, and most is exactly the same word in the writing as most here. Important is important, and then ones means qualities. So even in the thesis, the writer is using repetition as a way of connecting the writing back to the writing task. When we move to the next paragraph, the writer says, first of all, if I choose to live with someone, notice how someone is a restatement of the word roommate. It says he or she must be honest. Honest is a restatement of the word honesty. Honesty is a noun, honest is an adjective. But still the writer's using the same word. How about this? It says second of all, being respectful. So we have the word respectful here. That's restating the second key point in the thesis, which is respect. And then the writer says anyone here, which is a restatement of what's a roommate, which is already mentioned in the thesis, right? Now if we move to the next one, it says, in addition to being honest and respectful, I would certainly hope that my roommate is clean. Now this paragraph is very interesting here. This is called a transition, a transitional sentence you guys are looking at here. And what does that mean? A transitional sentence does two things. Number one, it connects back to points already mentioned, and it introduces the new topic of the new paragraph. So the transitional part of this sentence, the writer says, in addition to being honest and respectful. Notice how honest, it's what was already mentioned in that second body paragraph, and respectful is the second point mentioned in the third body paragraph there. You guys see that? And then when the writer says this, I would certainly hope that my roommate is clean. By using the word clean, that's restating the third point in the thesis, which says cleanliness. You see what we're saying? So again, because the writer is repeating or rephrasing key terms either from the thesis or from the previous paragraphs, the writer is able to have a very good, what we call connected type essay. It's very, very well connected. If you can do this, you will get a very, very high score on the writing. And if you can do this in speaking, it will also help you. All right, you guys see what I'm saying? Okay, let's move on. So we need to move on to our next point here for just a minute. Okay, somebody said, Shrikant, you said, can you show a bad example of using pronouns, please? All right. You said, can you share those pronoun PDF on the chat? No, I will not share that on the chat. This is copyrighted information from my website. Anybody who wants this PDF, they will have to join my course to get this particular document. I will not give it for free. I apologize. And if I give it to one person, they're going to give it to thousands of people all over the internet, and I don't want that. So Shrikant, you just simply need to go to speaking lesson number 7, and you will have access to that PDF document. Okay, I'm going to give you a bad example of using a pronoun. That's your question, right? So let's take a look at this one. Let's go here for a minute. Okay, if you said this, in this case, you have two sentences, and the first one says, I saw a man at the airport. A man told me he needed some money to buy medicine. Now, if you're talking about the same person in both sentences, then this would be a bad example of this case of using what's called, you're using a determiner in this case, but you're not using it correctly. So the second time you mention the word man, you should use the, right? So I saw a man at the airport. The man told me he needed some money to buy medicine. So once it's second mention, once the noun is no longer new information, and if it's a singular count noun, you want to use the second time you refer to it. You only keep using a. Now sometimes students might say this. I saw a man at the airport. They might not use any pronouns or determiners. I saw a man at the airport. Man told me he needed some money to buy medicine. Because the writer's not using a and the, it's not connecting the two sentences together as well as it should. So it's better to say it like that. So that's how I would use it there. So I saw a man at the airport. The man told me he needed some money to buy medicine in that case. So this would be an example of how to use these determiners correctly. All right, so let's keep going here. I'm going to move on to the next point here for just a minute. Okay, so the next thing we want to take a look at, this is the last thing I want to talk about. Now in just a minute, I want to actually listen to some speaking tasks live, right? And you guys are going to hear them, I'm going to hear them, and the question is, does the student have good cohesion and good coherence in the speaking? And will that help or hurt the student's score? You see what I'm saying? So in just a minute, you'll see some examples of either how students are or are not using these things in their speaking. That'll be the last thing I will do in this video. Now the next thing, I want to talk about the final thing here. It's called using parallel structures. A lot of people, this is very sophisticated. They don't know how to do it, but I'm going to give you some good tips today, and you will see in a speaking task how you can use parallel structures as a way of making the speaking connected. Now this one's a little more complicated, so I will explain kind of what I mean in just a minute. So let's go back. I'm going to go over to my handout for just a minute. Okay, let's see. It says, and everybody watching at YouTube here, you guys, you can certainly share the video to other people, but you do not have my permission to share the PDF file for this lesson. This PDF file is copyrighted, it is owned, produced by me, so nobody at YouTube or anywhere else has my permission to send this PDF file to anybody else. So be careful, don't break the law, be honest. Okay, let's go over to the next one here. Okay, I got it. So we want to talk about parallel structure now, and how we can use this in our speaking and writing as a way of being more organized. Okay, let me give you a definition of what this is. It says, a fourth way to cohesively tie ideas together in your TOEFL speaking and writing is by using similar or parallel grammatical structures to contain similar ideas. Because readers and listeners recognize that repeated grammatical structures signal similar ideas, skillful writers will satisfy readers' expectations by grouping similar ideas in like ways. Moreover, parallel structure involves more than just how the sentences look, but how they sound when silently spoken by that voice we use when we read silently. In a sense, using parallel structures creates a type of refrain, a regularly recurring phrase or verse that is commonly used, for example, at the end of a stanza of a poem or a song. So, if two sentences sound or look alike grammatically, the IBT human writers will assume that the concepts in the speaking and writing are also alike. So how does it look? So let's take a look at a speaking task for just a minute. You guys can take a look at this for a minute. If you want to read it silently, you may do so now. All right, let's take a look at it together. And of course, what you want to look at is in purple here. The purple highlighted sentences contains the parallel structure. Let's read it together. One reason why I prefer running over bicycling is the cost involved. Which form of exercise requires purchasing a helmet and bicycle which can cost more than $1,000? Which form of exercise requires purchasing an expensive mile counting computer? Which form of exercise requires purchasing expensive pants, shirts, and gloves, and other forms of safety equipment to make the rider visible while sharing the road with automobiles? Bicycling requires all of these things. In contrast, running does not require the purchase of helmets, bicycles, mile counting computers, and expensive apparel. It requires the purchase of a few items, shorts, shoes, singlets, and watches. Comparatively speaking, if I want to run, I can probably purchase everything I need for as little as $150, which is a lot less than what I would spend if I want a bicycle. Therefore, I prefer running since it is a lot less expensive than bicycling. All right, so let's take a look at the parallel structure area of it. Now, by the way, this is a little bit long for the speaking. It took me about 58 seconds to read this, so obviously, if you wanted to, you could probably get rid of, almost stop at this point, right? And it's still good. See what I'm saying? So here's my point. If you look at what's in purple, it says, which form requires, which form requires, which form requires, right? So the writer's using several questions in a row. So each sentence is similar in its sentence style because it's using the subject-verb inversion sentence style, which means the word order is phrased as a question 3 times in a row. And because each sentence style is a question, the audience will assume that all those ideas are connected, and they are. So the writer is using parallel structure here as a way of connecting the counter-argument or the argument against bicycling, which reinforces why running is a better choice, at least according to this speaker. You see what I'm saying? So that's an example of how you can use parallel structure. All right, now let's move on. The next thing we want to do is let's take a look at a speaking task. I'm going to go to my email right now. And I'm going to check a speaking thing. Give me a quick second, see if I can find one here. Okay, somebody sent me an independent writing practice test number 8. I'm going to send that over to my teaching assistant who will read and score it. See if I can find one here. Okay, let's take a look at Khalid. He's doing integrated speaking practice test number 5, right?
Both students have different opinions about the new policy. The female student believes it's unfair because she depends on her cell phone.
Okay, give me a quick second here. Let's go to the... I'm going to go over to the speaking rubrics to integrated speaking. And I'm going to see if I can figure out how to score this particular task. So. Okay, we have this. Now what we're trying to do here as we listen to his speaking, we're trying to see specifically how he's doing with his topic development, right? So it includes appropriate detail. It says the response presents a clear progression of ideas and conveys the relevant information required by the task. And then the question also is this. You know, is the writer the speaker, is the speaker using either A, B, C, or D? Is the writer using transition words? Is the writer using determiners and pronouns? Is the writer repeating or rephrasing keywords? Is the writer using parallel structure as a way to coherently organize the ideas? We're trying to pay attention to some of these things. Am I right? Okay, so here we go.
Both students have different opinions about the new policy. The female student believes it's unfair because she depends on her cell phone for personal and work reasons. And she gives the example of her boss calling her to notify her about her schedule changes. And she also says that what's the case if there's a crime on campus, she won't know about it. The male students, on the other hand, believe that it's really good policy because he can concentrate very well if he cannot use his cell phone. He also mentions that listening to students talking in their cell phones in hallways and library is really distracting to him. The female students believe if there is a few responsible student does not justify that they have to suffer all. She insisted that it is a strict policy. The male students believe it is a strict policy but with positive impact.
Okay, so
Both students have different opinions about the new policy.
So let's listen to it one more time, right? So we're trying to check the organization, the coherence of it. Okay, here we go.
Both students have different opinions about the new policy. The female student.
Now he says both students have different opinions about the policy, but saying the policy, the writer is using the word the and policy to connect back to the listening passage. So already the writer is having pretty good organization.
Believes it's unfair because she depends on the female student.
So then the writer says the female student believes, and then on the other hand, the male student believes. So the writer is now using specific words, the female, the male student, to help connect, to help us understand who believes what about the policy.
Believes it's unfair because she depends on herself.
Notice because she, so instead of saying female student a second time, the writer uses the pronoun she to refer back to that information.
For personal and work reasons. And she gives the example of her boss calling her to notify her about her schedule changes.
Okay.
And she also says...
Notice the use of the word also. She also believes. So the writer, so far, the writer is using transition words, the writer is using determiners and pronouns, and even repeating and rephrasing keywords.
What's the case if there's a crime on campus, she won't know about it. The male students, on the other hand...
I like that, the male student on the other hand. So the is a determiner, on the other hand is a transition word. So the writer is definitely using some of these cohesive techniques in order to connect his ideas together.
Believe that it's really good policy because he can concentrate very well if he cannot use his cell phone. He also mentions that...
Notice, he also mentions. Now, because the writer said also earlier, he could say something like, moreover, he thinks or he mentions. If you say moreover, in addition, it also adds to what was already said.
That listening to students talking in their cell phones in hallways and libraries is really distracting to him. The female students believe if there is a few responsible student does not justify that they have to suffer all. She insisted that it is
So he had a little trouble there. She says that because of the mistakes of a few students, it doesn't justify that all students have to suffer from this cell phone ban. So the speaker had some trouble explaining that.
Strict policy. The male students believe it is a strict policy, but with positive impact.
Okay, notice that. It's a strict policy, but with a positive impact. So, let me talk to this student now. I need to give him some comments, and you will hear, I will talk about the rubrics just briefly as I give him his score. Yeah, hi there, and these comments are for Colin, and I am Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-step system to pass the TOEFL IBT. And I just listened to your independent speaking task. So overall, I think it was good. So in terms of your topic development, you did a pretty good job linking the old information to new. You were connecting things very well. You talked about the female student, the male student. It was very clear who was saying what. You organized things, I think, in a very coherent manner, right? So if you look under language use, it says the response demonstrates good control of basic and complex grammatical structures that allow for a coherent, efficient expression of ideas. I'm going to say yes. So you did pretty well there, although near the end of your response you had some language use issues trying to explain some parts of the listening passage. So a little bit of trouble there. Delivery, you're speaking very clear, very good intonation, very good pacing. I think on this one, I think that it's possible you could get a score on this. So a score of 4 on this one. So I'm going to put you at about at least 24 to 26 points out of 30 on this particular practice test. So I think it's a very good job on your part. Okay, and those are my comments for this student. So I think that it's possible what you guys just heard at YouTube. I think that he could get a score 4 on this. It's possible overall. He has good intelligibility, pretty good control of his language use, and he definitely has good topic development with his response. And that's why I would give him the score that I did. Okay, I'm going to send him a quick email, and then I will conclude this video. Okay, give me a quick second here. So the comments that you guys just heard at YouTube, I now have to email these to the student because, I mean, why are you doing speaking practice if you don't get any feedback from your TOEFL IBT speaking specialist? How do you know whether or not you have good topic development, right? So I got to let him know. That's the first thing I need to do right now, is to let him know how he did. He'll be happy. And I have a good feeling that this student has a very good chance of getting, I predict, between 26 and 30 points in the speaking section of the test. Okay, let's finish this thing up. Okay, so I think I'm just about ready to finish this one. Let's take a look here. There are a few questions here. So Shrikant says, shall I repeat the thesis keywords in the body paragraph, or should I use synonyms in those places? The answer is both, either, whatever you think works best. If you use synonyms, instead of using exactly the same word, that's actually pretty good because that demonstrates a very good range of vocabulary. So if you can use a synonym instead of exactly the same word, you can do that. Mohammed says, hello sir, it took me 4 minutes to finish the assignment, Speak Clearly, Lesson 25. Should I post it or break it apart into 4 days? Post it, I'll listen to the first 60 seconds. That's fine. You don't need to get feedback on everything. I'll give you feedback on the first 60 seconds of that, so that'll be fine. All right, so my job is to try to give you feedback as much as I can in the different areas of the course, especially when it comes to your pronunciation, it comes to your speaking, and also your writing. So you definitely want to get some feedback. Now, because I keep my course inexpensively priced, right? And think about this, Mohammed, for a minute. Even if you're in an intensive English program or an English language program, you may not even get the feedback that I'm giving you. And you're spending thousands of dollars a quarter. You see what I'm saying? So, okay, I think I'm good there. Okay, so I want to conclude. So let me conclude this video now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the lesson. So let's take a look at what I did in this video. I want to make sure everybody's on the right track here. Okay, so during this particular video, the purpose of the video was to discuss how you can make your speaking and writing more coherent by having good topic development. That was the purpose of this particular live stream video at YouTube. And I mentioned two specific things here. I said, number one, you want to make sure you have good paragraph unity. Number two, you want to make sure you're using a number of cohesive devices to connect the speaking and writing together in terms of old and new information. And we talked about using transition words, using determiners and pronouns, repeating and rephrasing keywords, and then using parallel structure. And that was the purpose of the video. Now, to illustrate, let me go back to here. You guys see me? Here we go. Now, of course, to illustrate this idea, I listened to an integrated speaking task submitted by one of my online students. His name is Khalid, and by listening to his speaking task, I was able to pinpoint specifically that he did use some transition words. He did use some determiners and pronouns, and he did use some repetition and rephrasing and keywords as a way of keeping his speaking coherent. And that's what you want to do. So remember, the next time you complete a speaking practice test, right, the question is, are you organized? Are you doing these things in your speaking? Right? And that's what you want to try to do, is to become better at being more coherent and more cohesive in both your speaking and your writing. Alrighty? And everybody, thank you for watching this specific video here at YouTube. I hope that you've enjoyed and found this video useful. Now, if you want, you can certainly send this information. If you want to forward the video to other people, if you think they might be interested, you can have them watch it. And thank you for watching this today on January 4th. And Happy New Year to everybody. And I hope that your TOEFL dreams come true.